Warrior Nun season 1 on Netflix, all wrapped up now. Just finished watching it a short while ago. Figured I'd sit down and do a quick review for you. Overall, I enjoyed this show. It centers around a young girl named Ava. She is a bedridden quadriplegic who dies, is actually murdered by one of her caretakers just like a month before she would have been released onto to basically fend for herself. It was like a angel of mercy killing, and she ends up in this church morgue as this giant fight breaks out, and there's a secret order, the Order of the Crucible Sword, who have this person who kind of leads them called the Halo Bearer. Their current Halo Bearer gets killed, and the bad guys are trying to steal the halo. So one of them goes and just shoves it into this corpse. And normally a corpse does not come back to life when they have the halo inserted in them, but in Ava's case, she does come back to life. And from then on, it's really a journey of initially her just having a second chance at life. She can walk again. She can do what she wants. She's experiencing things for the first time, and then kind of moves into the responsibility of her being the halo bearer, having the ability to see basically evil in the world, and it's a lot of the OCS and ArcTech basically trying to recruit her to help them, which Ava eventually ends up going with the OCS, and then bringing the OCS and the ArcTech together to work together to vanquish evil. Along the way, I really liked how they presented different factions and people throughout the show. Like ArcTech, you're initially thinking like, oh yeah, these guys are the bad guys, and then thinking, like maybe they're not the bad guys, just a little misguided, and then all of a sudden they're teaming up with the OCS to help them out and working together. And then of course you find out that at the very end that Adriel was basically communicating with Michael, that was the head of ArcTech's son, to create some sort of portal, which we still don't know exactly what it did. And so they're like the unwitting accomplices to the evil guy at the end of it. Even how the character of Father Vincent was really disguised as one of the reliable good guys throughout. But at the end, when you have the reveal that he was working for Adriel the whole time, and you have that reveal, you kind of flash back and you're thinking, oh, that moment when he went to ArcTech and said, hey, ArcTech, the OCS is transporting the Shield of Faith right now. You can just go and hijack it. And there's another scene where he's kind of explaining, or he's talking about like what happens when all the demons are gone, and the only evil that's left is the evil that was inside of me, sort of before he joined the priesthood. Just like little moments like that, and that's what I really enjoyed about the show. Just how good and evil were presented, even like the big bad Trask enemies, where first time you see the Trask, you're like, oh yeah, that's a bad guy, that's a demon from hell. And then as everything gets revealed at the end, you see that their bones are made of divinium, and they were all after Adriel with the halo, and you start questioning things like, oh, maybe these Trasks were actually good guys. Even like one of them stabs Lilith at one point, drags her to hell, which was what I thought, and then she comes back, and you hear her say like, oh, the Halo Bearer can't go into the Tomb of Adriel, and you don't really get an explanation beyond that. But then you start thinking, oh, like maybe whatever kind of brought her back and healed her is actually an influence of good, not evil. So I really enjoyed that. On the flip side, things I didn't enjoy for this show was really a lot of the small details, especially early on in the season. It felt like lots of inconsistencies. All the characters' accents were all over the map. You couldn't totally get a reading on where they were. Early on, I was getting Italy vibes, but they were in Spain. And then later on, they were supposed to be in Portugal. And it just seemed like they just kind of took a 10-minute walk and they were in Spain. And like at the end of the season, even the main group of characters just like magically are just all of a sudden at the Vatican, and it's like, yeah, the Vatican is in a totally different country. And yeah, that was kind of a negative to me, like along like Ava not knowing certain things and trying to pass it off as, oh, I saw it on TV, and then being clueless about other things was, very just inconsistent, and overall just a negative for the show, but not enough in a negative, in my opinion, to quit watching. As I said before, I did enjoy the series overall. Most of the episodes, when they ended, I was looking forward to the second episode. Maybe some of the early on episodes didn't quite have that hook that the later ones did. The later ones, you're definitely, or at least I was definitely sitting there like, yeah, I want to know what happens. I want to see what happens next. I was very disappointed with the way the season ended. We're kind of building up towards getting a lot of these answers to the questions that we were starting to ask about the show, and then like right as the big fight scene presumably is about to start, the season is just done. And I don't know if that was like COVID related, that they just didn't get a chance to finish shooting everything and just released it as is, or if that was the intended way to end the show. I hope that there's a second season, because I would like to know what's going to happen next with Ava and crew really standing there ready to battle Adriel. Father Vincent revealing himself as the bad guy, and then just kind of slinking into the background, like kind of realizing that the Cardinal was not a bad guy the whole time, that he's actually been a good guy, and the implications of everything that the OCS was doing. Very interesting, and I wanted a few more answers, so we'll have to wait. I hope there's a season 2, and if there is, I will be back. And yeah, that's going to wrap up my review. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you later.